Good morning, Heart and Soul, and welcome to Heart and Soul Pride Month for June 2021. I have today, as well as a couple of weeks ago, and probably ongoing for a bit, there are a few people in the room with me because Heart and Soul is doing its preparation for opening. I'm not even going to say reopening because we've never opened this space before. So we will be opening. And besides that, we are very clear that we're establishing a new normal, which means we cannot continue talking about returning to anything because whatever was. And what awaits us is new. And so, in this newness, I want to begin by simply reminding us that our theme for this year and last year, and I think the year before even, was an adventure in faith. And anytime I think about Black History or Pride Month, all of it reminds me or puts me in the mindset of we are living an adventure in faith. And that the call, particularly our theme this year, is to rise up. So, in the midst of whatever it is we are experiencing, in the midst of a recollection of all that we've been through that brought us to this exact moment right here, that there's a way to perceive it. There's a way to enmesh oneself, to imbue oneself in a sense of clarity that I am on an adventure in faith. And that truly there is order in the universe. I stand before you as a Black woman in these United States, declaring that there's order in the universe. So you know I am peeping something beyond the effect. You know that I am embracing something greater, something that I haven't even necessarily fully experienced myself. But what, according to Mark 9, I believe. And we know that that scripture reminds us that if you believe, when you get around to believing rather than doubting, rather than fearing, rather than questioning, in that moment that we believe, that the one who believes that anything is possible for that one. Now, for the one who right now is like, I've already done that, Rev, and it didn't happen, I'm going to just question. I'm not going to argue with you because you get to have your own reality. But I do wonder if you fully have tested this notion of believing. I mean, so deeply that there's no other possibility, that there's nothing else that can coexist with what you are believing. No doubt, no fear, no question, no nothing other than believing. See, I don't know. I'm not sure. You know, this is not a mountaintop teaching. So this is not me looking down on y'all saying, do as I do. Please don't. This is instead me just establishing that there's something more, and that something more is calling to each and calling for and to each and every one of us, that is absolutely certain about us. So I want to begin by drawing from Emmett Fox. Our community is doing a daily read of Around the Year with Emmett Fox. And today, the focus, I love this approach. The metaphor is a good housekeeper. And what Emmett Fox says is that a good housekeeper sees to it that the creases and crevices are straight as well. So the dust, they're not just doing the surface stuff. This is a good housekeeper isn't sweeping it under the rug. Y'all understand the metaphor of sweeping it under the rug. It's establishing that it's there, but we just gonna put it so we don't have to see it. You know, America has a history, and we're not the only ones, but this is where I live, and I am an American, so I'm gonna focus on this. So we have a history of sweeping it under the rug. And so in Pride Month, I could not begin without establishing that today we're going to sweep it out. We're going to encourage us to clear out the creases and crevices, the corners and the shelves, and give it a thorough cleaning. And the it is our minds and our hearts. It's our own. It's very easy to look outside, but this is an inside job. It's very easy to look at them and say they didn't and they wouldn't, and it was before them, and it was a clear opportunity. But I'm going to say, let's get our own house in order. Let's see what part of me, what aspect of my being is a reflection, is an actualization of the same energy. So, for example, Emmett Fox offers us that if we're faced with a problem of health or finance, that we get to work on that, or the calling is to work on it immediately. I'm going to share with you some instances where it's taken us some decades to get clear about what happened, to acknowledge some folks that could have been, by right of consciousness, acknowledged while they were making their contribution. And I'm not going to stand before you and pretend like better late than never is a principle, because it isn't. I'm appreciative that we have come to ourselves, but we're not going to act like that's enough. We're going to begin to change ourselves in a way so that we become what? Good housekeepers. House in a scripture is always symbolic of mind, consciousness. So we're going to be good housekeepers. We're going to keep our house in order, our consciousness in order and open, so that we're not packing resentment, so that we're not packing anger, so that we're not packing anything that will interfere with us being a divine conduit. Because however we are holding it, however the degree to which our house is in order or out of order, says everything about how we are communicating with the divine. The degree to which our ideas, our thoughts, our words, our beingness, the degree to which it, in Scripture, it's often called pure. We kind of misunderstand that, but it's the clarity. It's the simplicity of it, isn't it? So look, there's a bit of a story that I want to share with you that I saw from America's Got Talent. And there's a woman who performs professionally as Nightbird. And she sang a song that she wrote, I'm Okay. And just before she sang the song, if you've ever watched the show, the panel of judges have a few queries about who you are and where you're from and what you're up to. And it appeared as if she was just about to sing when somebody asked about, she said the title of the song she was going to sing, I'm Okay. And then there was this additional question where she then shared her story. And her story is one that she was given a 2% chance of survival. There was a moment on, I believe, a New Year's Day where she got her test results, and it showed that she had cancerous tumors on her liver and her lungs, and, there were a number of spots. I'm not going to try to name it all, but it was, and she just wept. But in her song, I'm Okay, she's in a different place. And Howie Mandel, who's one of the judges, said something like, so you're not really okay right now then? But she said what I have on the slide for you to read. You cannot wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. And that's for all of us. Because the world is the world. And the way we perceive it is the way we perceive it. But if we're waiting for the laws to shift, and if we're waiting for an acceptance of lesbians and gays and transgender plus, then I'm going to say we're waiting in vain. While I believe that will happen, we may not live to see it in the way we desire it. So the mandate, if you will be to begin to rejoice within now. Why? Because it's an inside job. Rising up is not when everything is lowered to the least common denominator. Why you need to rise then? You can just walk through. But the rising implies that you must rise above something. And so the call, the mandate is to rise above. She says that it's so important that everyone know that I'm so much more than the bad things that have happened to me. Yeah. She says more recently that physically I'm doing well. Again, but for me, it's just like miracle after miracle after miracle. I'm trying to say it's a mindset. It really is. It's not about the effect. It's not about the diagnosis. It's not about the prognosis. It's what? What did Mark 9 say? If you believe. So it's requiring something of you to bring to the situation and the circumstance, whatever it is. She goes on to say that she had just finished up some treatments a week ago at the point that this interview was taken. And the doctors are anticipating that what they're doing is going to work, but they're unable to test because it's too early. But here's what she said. It'll be a few more months until we can go back in and see what's going on. But I'm expecting good news. She says, but I'm expecting good news. I really am. And then adds, I really am. If you believe. Ty Stevens wrote a song entitled Love is in the Room. And part of the lyric for that is, you are the gift that God imparts. See, I want you to have a sense that no matter what's going on, love is still in the room. You may not be interacting with it. You may not be singing it. You may not be seeing it. You may not be sharing it, but it's in the room. You could have a different experience. He says, lift your veil, reveal your heart. So we're not waiting for the other people. We're doing our work. Unwrap the present, release the past. He says, recognize that now love will last. I offer you our brother, Ty Stevens, with Love is in the Room.
Hey, 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 hey. Wall to wall, the vibe is high, we're lifted up, spirits fly, pure and simple reason why. Love is in the room, spirits moving all the time, dancing diamonds, sparkle shine. What's that feeling so divine? Love is in the room, safe in your rhythm. Let yourself go, free from your prison. Go for what you know. Love is in the room. Love is in the room. You are the gift that God imparts. Lift up your veil, reveal your heart. Unwrap the present, release the past. Realize that now love will always last. Yeah, always last. Yeah. Richard Cummings Jr. on the piano and soul jazz. Dance, y'all. Love is in the room. Love is in the room. You are the gift that God imparts. Lift up your veil, reveal your heart. Unwrap the present, release the past. Realize that now. Wall to wall, the vibe is high. We're lifted up, spirits fly. Pure and simple reason why. Love is in the room. Spirits moving all the time. Dancing diamonds, sparkles shine. What's that feeling? So divine. Hey, say in your rhythm. Let yourself go. Free from your prison. Go for what you know. Yeah. Love is in the room. 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 Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Love is in the room. It's all around you, yeah. Love is in the room. You are the love. Love is hot, so don't stop. Love is hot, so don't stop. Love is hot, so don't stop. Love is hot. Love is in the room. Can you feel? Hot. Love is in the room. So don't stop. Love is hot, so don't stop. Love is hot. Love is in the room. Room.
Yeah, Ty Stevens, love is in the room. So, look, y'all, here's my sense that if you believe love is in the room, you behave differently. You have a different expectation. And my sense, at least in my life, is that there's a certain courage, there's a certain boldness that can play when I know love is in the room. Does that make sense? Am I the only one that feels that way? When you know love is in the room, you can go a little further. But what if you, see, most often that's when you peep that love is in the room, then you show out. But I'm suggesting now, and Ty is in his lyrics, that you simply decide love is in the room because it must be. Either God is all there is and God is love. Is there anybody who didn't learn that particular verse? God is love, very simply. So if God is everywhere, always present, then love is in the room. So it's there before you get there. You bring it when you come. You left it somewhere as well. The next place you go, it's going to greet you as well. So for the one who has that understanding, that one understand. And here's the thing, because it is done unto you as you believe. First of all, you are called on to believe. If you believe, then everything is possible. But also, it is done unto you as you believe. So you have to somehow maintain that belief the entire time. Does that make sense? This conscious, intentional housekeeping is essential. So I'm going to ask them to put up the slide for Perry Wallace. Perry Wallace broke the color line in 1968 as the first black basketball player in the Southeastern Conference history. He played for Vanderbilt in the late 1960s. And he said he found that his own campus, that Vanderbilt, was as inhospitable to him as a black man as road trips were to Mississippi and Alabama. Now, no offense, those of you who are tuning in there, but you understand what he's saying about just how difficult it was. So here's what happened many years later, about 30 years later, David Williams, who was the late African-American athletic director at Vanderbilt University, he said when he arrived there, he was shocked to find and said this, "You mean to tell me that the Jackie Robinson of the SEC played here and you not waving banners and shouting from the rooftops about it?" Is what Williams said to the Vanderbilt University administrators. Just how could that be? I'm here and there's nothing that's representative that this black man was here. He was the Jackie Robinson of basketball, college basketball. And so at his urging, that changed. Love is in the room. But it's not going to meet you at the curb necessarily and say, come on in with the new idea. You're going to bring the idea and then discern that there's a listening for it. But you're going to have to bring it first. Some of y'all learned that on the block. You got to bring some to get some. And it's this idea of showing up. So today, there are 2 scholarships named after Wallace and an annual Courage Award in his name. His number 25 jersey hangs from the rafters in the Memorial Gymnasium, and an oil portrait of him is placed prominently in an engineering building, and Perry Wallace Way winds its way through the Vanderbilt campus. You see what I'm saying? But somebody had to say something. Somebody had to speak up. Somebody had to have the courage to discern that love was in the room. So in the decades, Wallace passed in 2017. But before he passed, for decades before, he was invited back to the campus many times to tell his story to new generations of students, and he ultimately received a welcoming, a listening that was more in alignment with what he deserved. The kind of accolades that were appropriate. Asked what it felt like to be honored by the same institution that had ignored him for so long, he said, reconciliation without the truth is just acting. But when the truth is present, real change and healing can occur. There's an opportunity for us to sense that we are a part of the reconciliation that we desire. In Pride Month, there's some reconciliation possibilities. And not just, I'm fanning the flame this month, but I'm just like Black History. I'm not confining that to February. And I'm not confining Pride to June. And I know in other places it's at different times, but wouldn't it be sweet if all over the United States and elsewhere it ended up every month somewhere? So that the energetic presence of it made it real everywhere all the time. What? So this notion of reconciliation is up to us. Who do you think is responsible for it being on the calendar at any given time? It's the groundswell of public opinion. It's that the politicians realize that there's enough energy, enough votes, enough voters, enough money, enough whatever it is they would count to make it worth their while. Love is in the air. We got to breathe it in, y'all. We got to breathe it in. Look, ultimately, here's the idea that Vanderbilt University ultimately decided in their reconciliation of their treatment of Wallace that they would require first-year students to read Strong Inside, which is a biography about him, 2 years in a row. See, that's putting an impression on some young minds. See, not like as extra. They didn't just put the book up and say you could, but made it required. Rather than hide from a painful era in the school's history, they're embracing it and challenging the students to have a different kind of outcome with it. Yeah? Okay. So then I have kind of, because I just got to tell you kind of the rest of the story in a sense. Because this notion of reconciliation, often we are looking for grand gestures. Often we're looking for whole systems to be collapsed without any hearts being changed, without us having to ever speak a word. We want magic, essentially. We haven't yet seen our part in it, that our fingerprints must be on it, that we must be involved in it in a way. So, Robert Bob Warren was an American professional basketball player, born in Kentucky, white guy, played forward for Vanderbilt University from 1965 to 1968. So he was a senior when Wallace came. And then in 2006, Warren is now on his way to a speaking engagement. And he said in the cab, his mind was racing back to the 1970s before he became a preacher, when he was a professional basketball player, a crew-cut farm boy, passing red, white, and blue basketballs, and sharing locker rooms for 9 seasons with Afro-coiffed men from places like Tennessee State and North Carolina A&T and Jackson State University. And he says it was in those days in hotels and buses and cabs and restaurants and flights, the many conversations with black teammates and becoming familiar with their perspective on the world, that it dawned on him what hell Wallace had experienced at Vanderbilt. But you see, somebody had to say something. In order, there had to be a listening. There had to be an opportunity. We got work to do, y'all. I'm talking about us. I'm telling you stories that I pray will have you see yourself in them. So he ultimately says that the cab reached its destination and the basketballer turned country preacher made his way up to the 4th floor of the law school. Standing there to greet him was Professor Wallace. It was the first time these old teammates had seen each other in 38 years. Warren said, "Forgive me, Perry. There's so much more I could have done." So I don't know what else he said. And part of me doesn't care. Because those words are such an important part of acknowledging that love is in the room and that transformation not only can take place, but will and must. So Robert Jensen, who wrote The Dangers of White Male Supremacy, said, "To not be shaken by suffering would be to abandon some of one's humanity. To ignore the fact that white guys benefit from these systems would be to abandon any humanity that remains." So it's not that we don't know how to do it. It's that we're resistant, apparently, to doing what is required of us. Because with what Robert Jensen is saying in the very text of his book, The Dangers of White Male Supremacy, written as a white man with that awareness of the privilege and the power that has just befallen him because he, by right of birth. And he's going on record to say something else is required of us. Something else is required of us. And so that's in part why I so appreciated Warren's greeting. Among his first words were, "Forgive me. I could have done better. Late coming. I'm not trying to doll it up for you. I'm not pretending that we ought to now have banners for him. But I don't want us to miss that love is in the room. Always. So look, when Reverend Jack was with us last week, and I'm so grateful, so grateful for the message that he offered. And I'm borrowing from that to simply share Bayard Rustin, who said that every indifference to prejudice is suicide. And maybe that's what Warren understood. Maybe he understood that he could not just continue to live as he had lived, that he really knew something different. That there was an epiphany of sorts, an awareness. And so he wasn't willing to live in the sense of prejudice, whether he believed it or not, but just live in it and not speak up. Because according to Brother Rustin, he says that if I don't fight it, not talking about the masses, but if I don't stand, if I don't say something, I'm strengthening it. There's no neutral position. I'm strengthening it, and I support it returning. I give it energy. So, look, in that brings me, I know I took a circuitous route, but this year, the Oakland A's have renamed their annual Pride Night after Glenn Burke. And their Pride Night was on Friday, day before yesterday. So Glenn Burke was a Berkeley boy, and you know I'm a Berkeley girl, and so he was at Berkeley High and was known at Berkeley High as a phenomenal baseball player. We all knew he was going on to, but he also was a great basketball player, so he tore it up any way you cut it, was a standout, and he became the first openly gay Major League Baseball player. He started with the Dodgers, and then was kind of unceremoniously traded to the A's. And that unceremoniously, I want to do just a quick little contrast here, is very much akin to Wallace's experience, because once it became clear he was gay, and when they offered him a bonus, the Dodgers offered him a bonus if he would just get married, a substantial bonus. And it said that Glenn said, to a woman? And that was the beginning of the end for him with the Dodgers, and then came to the A's. If you remember with the Dodgers, he's also known for kind of creating the high five on the field. So Dusty Baker, I think, hit a home run, and he ran out to greet him with the high five, and that was the beginning of that we all know. Here's my sense is that the Dodgers have an opportunity like Vanderbilt had. Because right now, you'd have to really search to find Glenn Burke favorably mentioned in Dodger history. And the Dodgers have a Pride night or day, or they acknowledge that, but they don't mention Glenn. And he was so this isn't about this. See, it's us. It's our own housekeeping. You need to understand this is not about, I'm using the Dodgers as an example, but where in your house? See, the idea here is that some parts of it, like mine, which is why I'm not inviting you over after, because there's some parts that are absolutely straight and polished, but then I'm like, oh no, you can't go there, because we haven't swept out the corners. And so it is in our consciousness. You see what I'm saying? There's some stuff you're doing, there's some good stuff, but the creases and the crevices, The corners, we hadn't swept out the whole thing. We haven't opened the wholeness of our minds and our spirits to include the fullness of a Glenn Burke. You know, we want to trade on a little bit of it. We want to talk about the good parts, but we're not willing to just own the entirety of the full experience. That there were A's team, and the A's did offer some support, but there was a while where Glenn was homeless. And it was when he was, well, frankly, I'm trying to figure out how else to say this, but when he was dying of AIDS. And when Reverend Jack was here, he made it clear that that's not like a new thing. That for a long time, when we were looking at numbers that we can't fathom between them and this current pandemic. But you see, I've said many times before, this isn't our first pandemic. Because we call what we want a pandemic. You know what I mean? We call different things. But as our sister Iyanla would coach us to just call a thing a thing. And so we've been through some pandemics. And we know that our gay brothers died alone, shunned. And Glenn Burke's experience was not, a portion of that was not much different. So part of what, but I want to tell you that once he left professional baseball, he kept active in sports for as long as he could. And after he retired from baseball, so when he was in the 1982 Gay Olympics, somebody tell me, please, why I printed this with print so small that I am struggling right now. That what we now call the Gay Games. He also played in the San Francisco Gay Softball League in August of 2013. And he was among the first class of inductees into the National Gay and Lesbian Sports Hall of Fame. He was inducted into baseball's the Shrine of the Eternals in 2015. I've come today to say to y'all that we have work to do. I know, in the words of Donny Hathaway, that we got a sack full of dreams, and that there are people with hearts who care, and that we all have dreams for the world. This, if anything, is a call to action, to bring the dreams out of the sack and into action, that we would learn to understand and see the world in love, to know that love is in the room and that it's safe for us to tell the truth and to live in and as the truth. That's Donny Hathaway's and my dream for the world. And now Ty Stevens singing Donny Hathaway, Sack Full of Dreams.
I've got a dream for the world. Peace on the rivers and everywhere. Bridges of steel and love. And cities that smile. Gray, empty faces walk by. hide all the loneliness, lighting a cigarette to blow time away. Lost in the noise, lonely as the wind, people on sidewalks with no place to go. Can they learn to understand the world of love that I'm dreaming? The world of love. And I said I got a sack full of dreams, streets filled with laughter and toy balloons, and people with hearts that care, who listen for love. Wanting to sing, wanting to care, wanting to share all my dreams for the world. Can they learn? Can they learn to understand the world of love that I'm dreaming? The world of love. Wanting to sing, wanting to care, wanting to share all my dreams for the world. Can they learn? Can they learn? Can they learn to understand the world of love that I'm dreaming? The world of love. Peace, peace and happiness, love and kindness. This is my sack full of dreams.
As we center ourselves and still ourselves, that I just take this moment to remind me and allow you to eavesdrop that it is done unto us, all of us, each and every one of us, as we believe. And I'm reminding myself that Mark 9 reminds me that if I believe, if I will just believe, if I will just let go of doubt and fear and questions, if I can just root myself in believing the truth, that love is in the room, that God is, and that God is all there is, if I just root myself in knowing that there is one life, And knowing that that life is the living one, that it's the strong one, that right where I am right now, the whole perfect and complete nature of the divine is. That the I am presence is vibrating as me, that there's not a spot truly where God is not, that it is within, around, and through my experience, every millisecond of my life experience, covered, surrounded, enfolded, top to bottom, side to side, in and throughout. God, the living one, the strong one, the I am presence. So right now, I'm literally vibrating in that divine energetic, in that energy, in that awareness. You see, there's no way for me to stay where I've been before. And I know I may be there again, but right now, I am in the divine vibration of the all in all. I'm believing that love is in the room. I'm believing that I'm surrounded and enfolded by the divine. That I am breathing the breath of the divine, the living one, the strong one, and that breath is breathing me. And that I'm living the life of the living one, the strong one, and the living one, the strong one, the divine, the I am presence is living me even as I am living the I am presence. That if someone pulled out a magnifying glass right now, they could not see where I begin and end and where the divine is, because there is but one. And in this consciousness, in this awareness of oneness, all life collapsed to the infinite possibility of good. The infinite certainty of love is a healing energetic. And that this is not true because I'm special. This is not true because I'm ordained. This is true because it's true. This is my experience because I'm willing to claim it, because I'm willing to know, because I'm willing to believe. To believe and know that right here and now, it's all done. And done well. That there's nothing for me to save, nothing for me, other than to declare the truth. And the truth declared is transformative. Transformative of my mind, my awareness, what I'll see when I open my eyes, what I'll perceive when I open my heart, what I'll know when I ground myself in this truth. Oh, I just give thanks. I give thanks. I give thanks for the divine revelation. I give thanks, as Ty sang, for the veil being lifted. I give thanks that I see more clearly than I ever have before. I give thanks for knowing right now the whole perfect and complete nature of the divine. Unfolding, expressing, manifesting, demonstrating as my life, as all life. I just let it be. Oh, I'm worn out from fighting. I'm worn out from resisting. I'm worn out from doubting. I'm worn out from being in fear and anger and obsessed by appearances. And so I lay it all down right now, releasing it, letting it be, trusting, knowing, believing, allowing. And I just seal it. I seal it with my word that all is well. And so I simply say, Amen, Ashe, and so it is. And remind myself that love matters.